Welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. I am Jake Albracht alongside Paul Savage. Savage in for Tommy this week here on the program. Glad to have you on board with us. Glad that you're able to be a part of the show, be a part of the program. Happy to be here with you on this Tuesday edition as we make our way to the NFL draft in Kansas City. All kinds of good stuff to talk about there. What's on tap today? We've got a Wichita Sports Hall of Fame interview to tell you about in the second hour. We've got giveaways for you coming up throughout the show. The major trade we've been waiting for in the NFL is complete. Another great night of NBA playoffs. As we sit here on this Tuesday, Jad Chambers producing for us. The IHOP hotline always open for you at 869-1240. You can also watch us on our video stream now as we are continuing to roll that out slowly. Should be fully ready to go very soon, thinking probably next week on that. But you can, jump in now if you'd like and be a part of it. It's been fun to chat with people that way. You can find us on our KFH Facebook page, our KFH YouTube page, and on our Sports Daily Twitter page, as we will be ready for you in those ways as well. Paul, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How about you, big boy? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. We get movement, and we talked about it yesterday. We suspected that we would get some trade news from the NFL before we made our way to the NFL draft, and that's exactly what we got. We love to see this. Trades before the draft, right? Trades during the draft. They're a lot of fun. And the big one, Aaron Rodgers goes down. And that's where we'll start today, Paul. We've been waiting since at least early March for this, since we've known publicly that Rodgers wanted to be, out of Green Bay. And he basically let it be known that he wanted to be a New York Jet. And at that point, things got really interesting because I think in a situation where, in the beginning, the Packers didn't have a lot of power here, Paul. They gained a lot of power the second that Rodgers let it be known publicly where he wanted to be. And that's really interesting, right? Like, if you're the Jets, and even if you're Rodgers, like, you got to be a little annoyed because I happen to think, look, I think the Jets did the right thing here. But I wondered the whole time who would have the power in this negotiation. And to me, it was very clearly the Packers. And the Jets paid a hefty price for Aaron Rodgers, Paul, as they give up, they swap first-round picks this year. So they move up from 15 to 13. Not that big a deal, but they also give up a second-round pick, a sixth-round pick, and what will almost certainly, if things go well for Rodgers, what would become another first-round pick next year, at worst, a second-round pick next year. I didn't think they'd be able to get that much for him. And, moving and swapping the two spots isn't that bad, but a second and potentially another first, that's a pretty hefty price tag for a guy who you really needed to get off the books. You really needed to get out the door. And the Jets still had to pay a pretty big price for 1, maybe 2 years, you would guess, of Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I'm going to confess. I got a confession to make to you and Jad, and that is that on this topic, I've been flopping around like a fish you just reeled into the boat, and it's on the floor of the boat and flipping and flopping and trying to get. I don't know where I'm at on this thing anymore. At first, I thought, of course the Jets need to do this. Well, this makes total sense to me. The Jets want to get better. Aaron Rodgers will give you the chance to do that. And then I got to thinking, well, no, not so quick, Savage. Not so quick, my friend. Wait a second. He's going to be 39 in the course of the next football season, 39 years old. Now, I mean, Tom Brady could do it. Tom Brady did it well. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl going to Tampa Bay. So we all know it can be done. Man, oh, man, Jacob, there's not a whole lot of Tom Brady's out there. They're not every day. They're not a dime a dozen, are they? And I'm not even sure Aaron Rodgers should be considered in that camp as well. Here's the problem. Age is the problem on a deal like this. That is the problem with, selling your soul to the devil. It can cause a problem, and the problem is age for Aaron Rodgers. I have flopped back to the position. I wouldn't do it if I was the Jets. Now, it looks good on paper. You got a Pro Bowler You got a guy destined for the Hall of Fame, but I wouldn't do it. I've kind of come back to build it up, find yourself a quarterback, trade yourself a quarterback, get somebody you can until you find that Joe Namath, which will be very difficult to do. But until you find that guy, Aaron Rodgers is not your answer. A 39-year-old quarterback is not your answer. Aaron Rodgers is not Tom Brady. So I've kind of switched back to that. Oh, by the way, interesting note. I was perusing an article on ESPN. Joe Namath, who we all still see in commercials, and he's all over the place still to this very day, has given Rodgers his blessing to wear the number 12 jersey, which, by the way, is retired by the New York Jets, as you would expect it to be. But he said, "Okay, Aaron, you come to the Jets. I give you permission to wear number 12." Aaron Rodgers said, "No, thank you. Thank you for the offer." But he's going to wear number 8, which is a number that he wore at the University of California. So that's kind of an interesting situation. But gosh, Jacob, don't do it, Jets. Don't sell your soul. Not yet.
Oh, I don't agree. I think the Jets absolutely needed to do this. Matt Stafford, who, by years is not the same age, but was certainly an older quarterback, won a Super Bowl with the Rams. Tom Brady at an older age won multiple Super Bowls, Patriots, Tampa. Aaron Rodgers, 2 out of the last 3 years, has been the MVP of the league.
Right.
That doesn't concern me. I'm far more worried about, him mentally and how much he wants to be in the game than physically. I didn't think he looked bad last year. Was he an MVP? Absolutely not. He walks into a better situation with better weapons. I think we'll find out about that. But the Jets, to me, are a desperate team, Paul. You say go find your next Joe Namath. How long are they going to keep looking?
Well, it's going to take a while, isn't it? But let me ask you a question, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. Is the way we're going to judge the New York Jets simply this? Does Aaron Rodgers win them a Super Bowl? That's success. That makes this a successful trade. Anything less than a Super Bowl champion makes this a total failure as an experiment, a total failure as a trade.
That's harsh.
No, it's not harsh. It's kind. I'm being kind because right now that's what this is about. How many years do you expect to get out of Aaron Rodgers? I think 2 max. Don't you think? 2 maybe? Maybe 2? Maybe 3. I doubt 3. I'm going to say 2. 2 at the most. And we don't even know that the second year will be. We don't even know that after the first game it's guaranteed. But here's the thing. This is going to be judged by one way only, my friend, and that's a Super Bowl. Anything less than a Super Bowl championship, why do it? Why do this? Why not build?
You're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Well,
I think that's obviously the goal, and there's a track record to show us this. There's a couple issues with that. One, you got to get through the AFC, which is brutal.
It is
right now, and I think that the Jets feel like, and I think they're correct in this. Zach Wilson wasn't going to be the guy. Okay, so you have this really talented team. The Jets drafted 3 Pro Bowlers last year, basically, if Breece Hall stays healthy. And they have knocked it out of the park. They're a very talented young roster. They have a young coach who everybody seems to think is the right guy and doing the right things. Everything's there for them, but it's not going to stay there forever because we know this in the NFL. You can't keep rosters together like that. So their window, to me, without a quarterback is actually pretty short, right? The Chiefs' window is as long as Patrick Mahomes will make it. The Packers' window for so many years was as long as Aaron Rodgers wanted to make it. Patriots, Tom Brady. If you have that great quarterback, your window can be extended. But if you don't, your window's very limited. And I feel like the Jets' window currently is limited. And it's not going to get any better with Aaron Rodgers, 5-6 years from now. But for the next, you hope to, you can take a swing for the fences. Hope Rodgers plays like he has 2 out of the last 3 years. Lean on all that young talent and try to win a Super Bowl. It is not out of the realm of possibility that the Jets win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers there. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, again, that he's been 2 out of the last 3 years, I think they've got a really good shot to win a Super Bowl. I immediately would pick them over the Dolphins next year. Right now, today, I would pick the Jets over the Dolphins next year with Aaron Rodgers there. And I know there's risk involved in that. Of course there is.
Well, that's
There's
all.
risk with the Dolphins right now too. And I would pick them, over the Patriots, certainly. I'm not sure I'm ready to put them in over the Bills, but I think they're right there. And I do think Rodgers can have that kind of an impact on this team. Rodgers will have a chip on his shoulder for sure. I just look at it now and I'm like, man, the Jets gave up a lot though. And, I can't help but sit here and think that if Rodgers never went out there and publicly talked about how he wanted to be a Jet, I mean, he immediately took all the bargaining power and negotiation away from the team he was trying to go to, right? Like by going and publicly letting the whole world know that you wanted to go to this specific team, that team has far less to bargain with. Whereas if Rodgers just came out and said, it's time to move on from Green Bay. I definitely want to be gone from Green Bay. And then says nothing else, right? Now the Packers have no power because now everybody in the world knows, well, Rodgers doesn't want to be there anyway. You need to clear the $50 million because you don't want him there anyway. We're not going to give you a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. He's just sitting there like you don't want him anyway. But when you come out and say, I want to go play for the Jets, and the Jets are desperate, the Jets don't have a backup plan. Now, if you're Green Bay, you're like, yeah, we may not want him, but we'll just eat that $50 million. We got to get something out of him. This is a Hall of Famer. You're going to have to give us a second-round pick. We're going to swap first and maybe another first next year. That's a big difference to me if Rodgers just stays quiet, because Rodgers needs to know too, like, help your team out, man. Like, help this team you're going to try win a Super Bowl without. Like, why would you even say where you wanted to go? Come out and, if you're the smartest guy in the room, which I think he, wants to be all the time, go play chess. Go say, yeah, I might like to go to San Francisco, or, the Jets sound pretty good, and, blah, 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 blah. And maybe I don't care where I go. I may not even play football next year, maybe. And then but quietly tell the Jets, like, yeah, I'd really like to come play for you guys. But the other issue with that is he had this no trade, so he kind of has to let the Packers know, right? So it's just this like personality thing. It's done now, and the Jets aren't going to feel bad about this, even if this fails miserably, Paul. Let's say this just goes up in flames and Rodgers isn't any good this year and he's done with football and they end up having to give up the extra second-round pick. I do still think, even in that worst case scenario, which I think is very unlikely, that the Jets will not regret this move, nor I don't think that they should. I think this is the appropriate swing for them because it wasn't going to work with Zach Wilson. The other thing you could have done is go after Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo, which Carr they were very much interested in. But is that really the swing for the fence that you need to take? You either have to start over at that position or do something like this, right? And this might seem crazy, but Stafford and Brady have shown us in recent years that a really good quarterback in the right situation in an isolated season can absolutely win a Super Bowl. And I think that Rodgers absolutely can in New York.
Well, and as you remember, we had this conversation a while back with regards to, what do you do if you're the Jets? Do you go get Carr or do you go ahead and go get Rodgers? Which one are you going to go after? If you remember correctly, I was in the camp, take Carr. Now, not because I thought Carr was a better quarterback. That's not it exactly. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. He is a good NFL quarterback. And when you're a good NFL quarterback, there's always going to be a place on a roster for you somewhere. And I was in the camp that take Carr. Carr's 34. I think my age is right. Isn't that right? I think it's 33 or 34, somewhere in that area. He's got a lot of years. I mean, he's still got 7. Well, yeah, maybe 6-7 years. But I mean, assuming he makes it as long as Rodgers, he's got 6 years left. And that's a lot. That's a chance to build a franchise. That's a chance to build a team that can win. That's a chance to take your team where you want to go. But age 39 does not cut it for me. Not with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not sure that, particularly if let's say Breece Hall doesn't rebound to the way we think he can. And the way, obviously, people like you and I in the city of Wichita, Kansas, want him to bounce back. We want him back and strong and going and making a name for himself, and all the money he can make. We want that for Breece Hall. But say it doesn't happen. And let's say, for instance, maybe you get that one key injury on an offensive line, or maybe that one receiver. I mean, there's so many scenarios with the Jets that could go wrong, particularly when you have a 39-year-old quarterback that's incredible to me. All I'm saying is Carr's a better choice. In my book, I would have taken Carr. Is that right or wrong? We will never know, will we? We'll never know, but that's okay.
No.
But 39 years old, there's limits. And there's limits to the foundation that you can build for your franchise. That's all I'm saying. Is Rodgers still got some mileage? I think he does. I'm assuming that he does.
But how are they limiting, Paul, the young talent now? Because the young talent, if they don't have a quarterback there,
well,
that's limiting the young talent.
Right.
Because
Well,
the young talent's going to go elsewhere.
Right. Well,
right?
you brought up Zach Wilson as well, and that's considered young talent. A number 2 overall pick at one point. This is a kid that was, in fact, it was in 2021, maybe 2020, 2021. So, I mean, he's still very, very young. Still got.
You ever watch him try to play NFL football?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, yes, and it was a struggle for. I don't know how you end up being a number 2 pick. I mean, I don't know how you get it so.
It happens. It happens all the time.
It happens all the time on all positions, all the way down to an offensive lineman. We see it happen all the time. But anyway, with that being said, you still go find that quarterback, you draft that quarterback, you roll the dice another year. I think this is one of those deals where, man, oh man, sell your soul to the devil, and pretty soon you're going to be located in a place you don't want to be. But I don't think there's a ton of upside, because Rodgers did not impress me last year. Was he better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL last year? Well, yeah. Was he as good as the elite quarterbacks? Not even in the same book, not even in the same area as the elite quarterbacks from last year. So I'm kind of under the camp that no, this is not going to work. And by the way, I've given Aaron Rodgers his dues over the years. For years, I said he was the best passer in the entire NFL when it comes to movement inside the pocket. That guy's, in fact, I might just throw this out. There may not have ever been a quarterback who can move around a pocket, stay inside the pocket, but move around in the pocket as well as Aaron Rodgers. Might be the best of all time. I can't think of anybody that does it better. And I don't mean a guy that's going to break out of the pocket and run for 10 yards.
He and Brady both do that very well.
Brady does it well too. But Aaron Rodgers.
But I agree with that. But Paul, like the window, whatever the window is for the Jets, consider the risk, right? Let's go back to Zach Wilson, who was taken second. So Trevor Lawrence, I think we all generally feel like it will at least be good, right? Is he going to be as great as we thought when he was a freshman at Clemson? I don't know, but he'll at least be good. And quarterbacks like him don't come around very often. There's not one in this draft this year coming up in 2 days. Zach Wilson went second. That ain't going to work out. Trey Lance went third. How do you feel about Trey Lance right now? Well, how do you feel about Justin Fields at 11 to the Bears? There's some hope there. Mac Jones, there's rumor now the Patriots are ready to be done with Mac Jones, who went at 15 in that draft. And the risk doesn't just come in taking those guys, right? The risk comes in what else is there. Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devonta Smith, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater. Of the top 13 picks, those are the guys that weren't quarterbacks. Those are all really good players.
They are.
Right? So,
yeah.
Like, you want to talk about risk. There's not just risk in the fact that you might not hit on this quarterback. There's risk that there is tremendous talent oftentimes at the top of these drafts. 2021 was a perfect example. So if you're the Jets and you had the 2022 draft that you had, right, and they've been drafting great for a long time, you've got to take a chance. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP in 2020 and 2021. And whether you thought like I did, Brady should have won it in 21, it's negligible. 2 out of the last 3 years, this guy won the MVP. He's walking into a situation, he lost Devontae Adams, yes. Now he's walking into a situation with a good line, good run game, we think, good wide receivers, good young receivers, and probably as good or better a defense than he had in Green Bay in those late years. It makes a ton of sense for me for the Jets, even if I think ultimately they overpaid on what I thought that they would pay when this all started. We can get more into this later in the show. Man, oh man, there it is. Does it mean anything for Lamar Jackson and his movement? Do we see any other quarterbacks traded? There's plenty in the rumor mill. It's going to be wild and crazy, not just on draft day, but for the next 2 or 3 before we get there. IHOP hotline 869-1240. We appreciate everybody jumping into our video stream with us. You can find it on the KFH Facebook page, KFH YouTube page, Sports Daily Twitter page. We'll come back. Interesting shocker basketball news. A signing and some news about a former player that could have a little intrigue. We'll talk a little shocker hoops when we return on Sports Daily.
Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Glad to be with you here. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage, alongside you. Paulie, Jaquan Walton news. Did you see this yesterday?
I did. I just saw it, and I think to myself the same thing I think about all these types of situations is what are you thinking? I mean, come on now. What are you thinking? That's my first thought.
Well, look, it's interesting. So Jaquan Walton, who for these reasons we'll talk about in a minute, is no longer going to be at Alabama.
Correct.
Walton was reportedly arrested Saturday on second-degree marijuana possession charges. Nate Oates, the head coach, Jeff Goodman, reported after that report came out that, quote, Alabama no longer recruiting Jaquan Walton. He will not be a student athlete at the University of Alabama.
Right. Well,
so AL.com says Walton and two others were sitting in a vehicle at a parking lot. Police approached and smelled weed. He and other occupants exited the vehicle. Walton informed officers that there was a loaded firearm in the car. Police found marijuana and other weapons in the vehicle. Walton and another man were both arrested, charged with misdemeanors. And I have seen reports that the weapon was registered and concealed and all the right things. So it's a second degree, marijuana charge. It's a very, this is all secondhand, right? This is all happening somewhere else, and we only have the reports. But it's interesting because is there anybody on the planet that didn't think Walton was going to go be a star at Alabama, right? He was the most interesting name of the Shockers that entered the portal. We didn't know what his future was, but now we know it's not at Alabama. So it gets a little bit interesting, Paul.
It does. And by the way,
if it's
I was just going to say, to be accurate, there were a total of 3 loaded firearms, and so they're but they were all legal. That's why when you hear about what's going on with regards to the police charges, weapons are not being mentioned. It is the marijuana, and you're talking about in terms of 20 grams and 12 grams, and those get the attention of police where marijuana is not legal, or certain amounts are not legal. This is where you're at. Stupid. I mean, come on. This is a kid that could have had maybe, who knows, could have had maybe a future in the NBA. I'm not going to say that he would be, an all-star. He may not be a Ja Morant, but he, who knows? I mean, he was a talented kid, and a kid capable of doing well at the University of Alabama and in the SEC, and played on a spotlight team that gets a lot of attention in today's world with basketball. So I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know why this kind of thing has to happen. But man, oh man, you talk about taking one of those 3 guns and shooting yourself in the foot. That's just about what he did with his career. Now, will somebody else take him? Probably, don't you think? Somebody's going to take him.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Look,
I mean, he's going to.
The question everybody has is, would Wichita State take him back? And that is, if they're legal and everything was legal with the weapons, the problem for Alabama is it's at Alabama where we had the situation last year with Brandon Miller.
And that was a
in the
mess.
Team, and somebody was killed. And
ugly.
That's why I think you see such swift and harsh reaction from Alabama, because, it's a different debate on how they handled the Brandon Miller situation, but they did the way that they did, and that was a cloud over that team all year. And so they're not going to have anything to do with anything, I would imagine, that has to do with the weapon. And now it becomes, if that part of it was not sinister, right, and handled appropriately and not illegal and whatever,
everything
then it
legal.
Becomes
yes,
potentially a weed charge, a second degree having weed. I will say this, because it's what people immediately started talking about when the news came through and texting me about yesterday was, do you think Wichita State would take him back? My quick reaction to that would be highly unlikely, right? No, I don't think that they would, because I think that for a couple of reasons, right? One, there is a very clear um, motivation developing for me at Wichita State that starts with Kevin Saul and all the things that he said and follows in the things that he's backed that up with coaching decisions and everything else. High character is going to be a big part of what the Shockers do moving forward. And Jaquan Walton that I know of or can recall never did anything wrong, was a model student. There's not anything there. So this is isolated for me, at least personally. But even then, that would seem to be a stretch for me. And the other reality is, Paul, they've began to go get other players, right? So what they're doing with the program right now has been with the idea that Jaquan Walton was not going to be a part of it. So, it's interesting to talk about and to wonder and consider, but is it any sort of reality? I doubt it. They just signed another 6'4" rangy guard, Joy Ichuva, yesterday, who's a Nigerian player out of the NBA Academy in Africa, which is interesting. But, they've gone and done some other roster construction. So it just seems like a stretch for everybody that wonders that. And of course, I wondered it too.
Right.
Let's go to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Steve on the line. Steve, what's on your mind?
Good morning. Hey, I find it pretty humorous that the Alabama coach, when they had their star player that was trying to lead them to a national championship, delivered a murder weapon, but yet the coach draws the line at, somebody got arrested for marijuana. It's ridiculous how that guy has handled things. So I that's the first thing I thought about.
Well, look, it's because of one that you're seeing the other, I would imagine. I would imagine because of the way everything happened last year, Nate Oates will not want anything to do with anything like this again this year. That would be my guess. Is it hypocritical? I mean,
yes.
Probably, even though the weapons stuff wasn't, ended up being a charge. So we could say but at the same time, if let's just consider this, Steve, if he didn't, and he welcomed him with open arms, considering everything that happened last year, how do you think that would have gone over today?
Well, you're right. That wouldn't have gone well. And you had made the comment about the new Wichita State coach trying to get high character guys. Look what KU is going through right now with this, like this Billy Preston. I mean, is he a high character guy? Probably not. And they were getting some guys that weren't. And so
I don't know that I agree with
bit.
I don't think I agree with that. I think there's a difference in, now there's NIL, so the Billy Preston situation probably wouldn't have been a problem.
Now
that kind of stuff, though, Steve, never has struck me as a character issue. I don't think that, for instance, there are any questions of character when it comes to Reggie Bush. Character to me, because that was a disservice being done to the athletes anyway by the NCAA. You want to talk about character. What's low character and low brow is the way players have been handled by the NCAA for 100 years now. That's low character.
Right.
So I don't think that's apples to apples.
Well, then, so some of these one and done type of people that KU has recruited that the Dukes and North Carolinas steer away from, and they don't have these issues. At least it's not public. If they do,
my gosh!
Zion Williamson. You don't think Zion Williamson had any issues?
You don't think any of those kids are smoking joints? Are you kidding me? Come on, hey,
KU tried to land Zion Williamson, and they didn't get as good a deal. So So
I don't know what you're trying. I don't know what you're trying to say. KU has balanced this better than any school in the country. KU is the program that has guys stick around until they're juniors and seniors. Duke and Carolina and Kentucky. Well, now they always have. What do you mean? When did they not?
Well, they've had multiple one and dones that have blown up in their face.
Sure they have.
Their names
sure, they've had multiple one and dones.
Right now.
But go
but
stack up the number of
I
one
think
and
they've
dones at KU
revamped.
to Kentucky or Duke,
Well, that's
and
not
go
close.
see who's had
Well,
more.
Kentucky, it's amazing if you get
Oh.
to the second year. I mean, come on, that was
No.
what was rare. Somebody going to the
Mom.
second year there. But I get your point. But we got to look
Well-
at. But here's the thing, Steve, and I might be wrong on this, but having been a coach for the last 10, 15 years, who have coached young men older than, let's say, college, probably in their 20s, in their mid 20s, up to the mid 20s, marijuana is something that is just here. It is marijuana is what Buckhorn beer was to me when I was in college. Buckhorn beer. Yeah. I don't know if you remember Buckhorn beer in Texas, Jacob. I don't even know if you were.
I didn't have Buckhorn. I was a Keystone Light guy.
You were a
myself in college ball.
Keystone Light guy. You weren't even.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's another topic we'll have to talk about. But the point is that, we live in a different world. I've come around to the point where, I don't think that much about marijuana. It doesn't bother me. Have I ever tried it? No, I've never tried it, so I wouldn't know. But it's not for me. I'm not going to. I don't want to. But we are putting way too much on the fact that somebody had some marijuana. Because let me tell you,
Make no mistake about this. This situation is something Nate Oates wants to avoid because there were weapons in that car. Regardless of whether it was legal or illegal or whatever.
Okay.
After what happened last year, there is no question. Huh?
But it's still illegal, now.
No, those guns weren't.
Like
no.
underage
Those guns
drinking
were
is
not illegal. The guns weren't illegal.
We were talking about the marijuana, and
So me drinking Keystone Light in college was illegal too, Steve. I'm with Paul on that. That just doesn't bother me that much.
Thank you. Well,
I don't.
No, I know. I understand that, but what Nate Oates or Oaks, whatever his last name is, how he handled the in season, it appeared like he was chasing a national championship and he didn't care what he had to do.
Of course he was.
And
of course he was.
Yeah. And I mean, even analysts and commentators said what he's doing is wrong, and
I think that the other difference, and I don't know Nate Oates, never talked to him, don't know anything about him. I think the other difference between Miller and Jaquan Walton in one sense is that Nate Oates hasn't even had a chance to develop a relationship with Jaquan Walton. I do think that, and I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we all, and enable is not the right word, but we all forgive things maybe that we wouldn't from strangers, from people that we know and care about. So I think there was probably a much more established relationship with Brandon Miller and Nate Oates than there is with Jaquan. Jaquan Walton, other than announcing he's going there, hasn't even really had a lot of time to be there. So It's just an easier decision. Not surprised by it at all. Steve, we appreciate the call to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. It is a situation to monitor. Obviously, it's relevant because Shocker fans immediately start wondering if there's any world where Walton could come back. I don't think so.
I hope so. I hope Mills shows compassion and says, listen, you need a place.
We could. Mills doesn't have a relationship with Jaquan Walton either,
I know
Paul.
that.
That's the other, that's the hard part too.
But tell the world you're a compassionate guy. You believe in second chances. You're still welcome at Wichita State if you want. I'm telling you right now, Coach Mills does that. He will open up the world to different kids who say, this is a coach that I want to play for. I'm just telling you right now, if I'm Wichita State, I make the offer, come back. It's okay. Come back.
It's complicated. We don't know what offer was made before he left.
Right.
I don't know what he's looking for.
Right.
I don't know how much money potentially he's just cost himself. That kind of stinks too. 869-1240. We can continue on that topic. I think we have Kevin Saul this week. I'm going to have to check on that now that we're talking about this. Speaking of Wichita State and basketball, I will look into that. We had to take a brief pause for the women's basketball coaching search because I do want to talk to him about that too. But with players now added to the program and the success of baseball and softball, a lot to talk about. So we'll try to get that confirmed before the end of the show and let you know. Speaking of Wichita State baseball, quick programming note: the game today in Stillwater against Oklahoma State is out. They're not gonna play it. They won't be able to make it up. Rained out. We'll wait and see if softball can get the game against Oklahoma in. But just a quick note that the university sent out there. All right, Paul, let's come back. Let's give something away. We'll have a little contest.
Yeah.
We'll get you an opportunity to win when Sports Daily returns on this Tuesday edition. All right, turn a loss into a win with BetMGM, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Place a one-game parlay wager with at least 4 legs on any MLB game. If all legs of the parlay hit but one, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets up to $25. Just log into your account, download the app, and sign up with BetMGM to get started. Then opt into the one-game parlay insurance promotion to receive up to $25 back in bonus bets if your parlay with 4 legs or more loses by just 1 leg. Only at BetMGM, the best place to bet on baseball. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager, Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. One game parlay insurance has been fun in Major League Baseball. It's been challenging, Paul. Baseball is a tricky one. We'll have our pal Chelsea Messenger in to help us in the betting world later this week on Thursday. Paul, also coming up just in a few minutes now, we've got a Wichita Sports Hall of Fame induction. We're doing that again this spring. We're going to induct the members into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame, of which you run the show with. Paul, who do we have today? Tell us a little bit about today's inductee, and we'll do that coming up in just a little bit in the next hour.
Well, first of all, let me just say thanks to you and Tommy, and of course Jad as well, and along with Tony Dusing, who encourages us to do these inductions on the radio. Turns out, Jacob, this is an amazing thing, but 8 out of 9 of our, well, actually 8 out of 10 of our inductees live a long ways away. So we decided, instead of getting 8 people to have to travel as far as away from Canada, New York City, Texas, California, North Dakota, I mean, they're scattered all over the place. Instead of getting all these people to have to spend money, take time, come to Wichita for this, we decided for one more year at least, and maybe more, to induct our class on Sports Daily once again, which has always worked out really well. People enjoy it, and the chance to podcast and listen to it later for relatives and people who this is so special for them. It's meaningful. So first of all, thank you to you and Tommy and Jad and Tony as well for allowing us to do this one more year. Today's inductee at 10 o'clock will be LeBaron Holloman. This is sports royalty when it comes to soccer inside the city of Wichita. This kid was all state at Northwest. He was everything at the college level. He was also the very first Wichita native signed by the Wichita Wings. How about that? And LeBaron is royalty. He is royalty when it comes to soccer in the city of Wichita. LeBaron Holloman at 10 o'clock today, Jacob.
All right, we've got that coming up in just a little bit. So we're excited to get to that. Coming up as well in the second hour, we're going to talk more about the NFL draft. All kinds of fun stuff coming with that in just a couple of days. Before we do that, though, Paul, let's give something away here. Let's see. We got a couple of things to give away. Let's do wrestling tickets right now. If you're watching our video stream on our KFH Facebook page or YouTube page or on Twitter at Sports Daily, you can see that I've got my old wrestling buddy I dug out. I'm trying to get this room in shape. I've got the dresser moved, and right now it's just, some stuff piled up, but I'm trying to get some things going. But I got the Macho King behind me here, which is perfect because we're going to give away some Monday Night Raw tickets right now. WWE coming to Wichita on June 12th, 6:30. The doors open at 5. You don't want to miss the star-studded night featuring Cody Rhodes, Bianca Belair, Seth freaking Rollins, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Becky Lynch, plus the Street Profits, Damian Priest, many more of your favorite superstars. We'll give away a pair of tickets right now on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, to our first caller. We're excited about that opportunity as we take a break here, and we will get to we're going to get to that. Looking forward to it. We'll have that interview into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. Baron Holloway and Paul will help us navigate that. Excited about it. Here we go. Sports Daily rolling into hour number 2.
All right, 1 hour.
This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2, everybody, here of Sports Daily. Working on LeBaron Holloman. We'll have that later in the hour here. Got to say hi to Mike, who's watching us on the stream. Mike has been an avid viewer here of our early days of our Sports Daily live stream, which you can catch, of course, on our KFH Facebook and YouTube pages. You can comment on those, and we will be able to see that, which is really cool. You can also watch along on our Sports Daily Twitter page. You can get a good look at Paul Savage. And Paul mentioned this yesterday, ladies. He is, he makes this show more interesting for sure. A couple other programming notes. We do have Kevin Saul. I just confirmed that for his regular biweekly visit on the program tomorrow. We took a week off the last time as the university began a search for a women's basketball coach. So we will have Kevin Saul to talk about a lot of different things regarding Shocker Athletics tomorrow. Speaking of Shocker Athletics, kind of a bummer today. I'm never going to say a bummer when it's raining because we need it so badly. But both the Wichita State baseball and softball games, which were big-time matchups for each of them, have been called off today. Rain in the forecast, in some situations been raining. They're just not going to be able to get them in. And because it's late in the year, they won't make those games up. So Wichita State baseball and now Wichita State softball have been canceled with the weather. So we'll have to just continue to follow the season as they get back into conference play this weekend. Those news items have come through, and the TBT sets its regional Wichita dates. Speaking of the Shockers and former Shockers, Wichita will play host again to the TBT. First round game on July 20th, second round July 21st, and then another regional for Wichita, which has been really cool. By the way, the regional championship game would be that Sunday on the 23rd, and then a quarterfinal matchup, which we saw last year, and continue that, and hopefully the Aftershocks can make it back into that, July 25th. We don't know who else will come, but the other announcement in that we know the dates are Connor Frankamp, Daryl Willis, Samaje Haynes-Jones, and Marcus McDuffie are all a part of the roster this year, all members of last year's team. They will return, so that's exciting. And then Taylor Eldridge at the Eagle, our pal to the show here, reporting that there is talk of trying to get a reunion team of the 2013 Final Four as some part of this Shocker celebration as well. More on that as we get closer to the dates, but that has been announced. All right, Paul, we have connected with LeBaron Holloman. We are going to induct some members of the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame right here on Sports Daily this spring over the next few weeks. I'll let you set this up, Paul, and take it away for us.
Well, thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. And boy, I'll tell you what, it's a great honor to introduce to everybody LeBaron Holloman. If you're a soccer fan, you know this guy. You know who he is. LeBaron Holloman was a two-time All-City soccer player, state champion runner-up at Northwest High School right here in Wichita, and, of course, played for one of the great names in high school soccer at Northwest and at Eastern Illinois. He was an all-Midwest regional and a two-time all-conference player before becoming the first player ever signed with the Wichita Wings, and was really one of the great players for them for 10 years. His best season professionally was in 1997, where he scored 55 points for the Wichita Wings. As our first inductee into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame, the class of 2023, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to introduce LeBaron Holloman. LeBaron, welcome to Sports Daily, and thanks for coming on with Jacob and myself.
Thank you. Like you said, it's an honor and a privilege for me as well.
Well, you know, one of the things about soccer is nobody gets to greatness by themselves. It takes a team. It takes great coaches. It takes great parents. It takes a lot of things. Who were those that were so influential in your career? Who were those people? Who were some of those who made a Hall of Fame induction for LeBaron Holloman possible?
First and foremost, I'm going to have to say my parents, because they, growing up, they were the ones who took me to all the tournaments and the practices and everything. So they're by far my number one shout out is to them. Then I have to speak highly of Bobby Brivieska at Northwest. He was a big influence for me. He kind of guided me. He gave me a chance in high school when I was a freshman to be on one of 3 freshmen to make the team. So Bobby Brivieska is another one. And then another name that comes to mind was Norman Piper and Ian Anderson, because they were my club coaches, and they were the ones who really saw the potential in me and put me in the situations to where I could grow. And then finally, one other name that really sticks out to me is Roy Turner. Roy Turner, when I was younger growing up, he used to let me, him and Terry Nickel, they used to let me come out and train with the Wings when I was in high school. And I'm a firm believer that had I not had that opportunity, all of the opportunities afforded to me probably would have never came to fruition.
LeBaron Holloman, Wichita soccer legend here, joining into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. I wonder, LeBaron, what's your take on the state of soccer in this area? FC Wichita has grown. You had so much involvement with the Wings. We've heard, that Wichita State wants to add some soccer a little bit. How do you think soccer is growing in this part of the country?
It has grown exponentially. I left for California for about 8 years. When I came back, FC Wichita was in place, and that's phenomenal because it's giving players an opportunity to showcase themselves on a national stage, and that's something that's very important because it's on that national stage where recognition is and allows players to be seen. So I think it's grown tremendously. Having the Wings back in town is always a good thing. And so, yeah, the growth has been huge.
You brought up several Wichita Sports Hall of Famers with some of the people that you were talking about were influential in your career. And one of them was Bobby Brivieska. This is a man who might be the most highly thought of individual in all of Kansas when it comes to high school soccer. Talk a little about your relationship and what he meant to you in the world of soccer, particularly at the high school level, but later setting the foundation for what you would become after high school and into the pros.
Well, Coach B and I, we still communicate today. That just goes to show you, the power of the relationship we had, that, all these years later, we talk regularly. Bobby was more a mentor than a coach. Obviously he did the coaching things with the X's and O's, but he was a great mentor to everybody. He was one of those coaches that, he put his arm around you when he needed the arm around you, but when you needed to kick up the butt or the backside, he was right there, So, the relationship with Bobby is very much a mentor. And to this day, it's the same way. He still mentors me on, how to be a better man.
I wonder, LeBaron, I've got 3 young kids playing soccer, 8, 6, and 3. We got our first goal from our 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So we're excited. How do you get this is just how do you get them to get in there and be aggressive? Is that a personality thing? We're my wife and I are ultimately competitive, and we're sitting there and just how much fun is that though to see all the kids out there playing soccer, having a great time?
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see them out there having a great time. The answer to your question on that aggression side, it's something that I think it can be learned. It can be learned by putting them in the situations where, they have to be aggressive, so I think it can be a learned trait. I wouldn't, stress too much about that right now. Biggest thing is, are they having fun, because I've known a lot of players that just quit playing because it's no longer fun, whether it's the pressure from the parents, the coaches, whatever it is, the fun stops being there and they drop out of the game. So biggest thing for me at the ages they're at is making sure they're having fun, but learning the fundamentals of the game.
Well, obviously we've got to bring up the Wichita Wings. You're talking to a guy right here who for about 3 or 4 years when the Wings were in their prime playing at the Kansas Coliseum. Jacob, you probably don't know this, but I had season tickets. I don't know that I missed a Wings game for years and years and years. Love the Wichita Wings. Talk a little about the Wichita Wings and what they were to the city of Wichita from the perspective of a player?
Well, the support from the Wichita Wings is outstanding. We had the Orange Army, which was like the big fan base, and they were outstanding. You know, they were loud, they were vocal, they were supportive wherever we were. We'd come back from road trips, and they'd be at the airport, you know, waiting on us. You know, all those things. So, you know, it was for Wichita. It was great because we were considered a medium market, a small market. And to be in a market like this, to have a professional team like that was huge. And so, you know, it was appreciated. But from a player standpoint, to have that support, you know, and the Kansas Coliseum, I think it held like just under 10,000 people. And you'd put 8,000 people in there, and the place was absolutely rocking, you know. So from a player, we always appreciated the support that we always got in all the different ways they supported us.
Well, LeBaron, just, you know, when you look at this and you have an honor like this, you're a Wichita guy, Northwest City League guy. You just, you know, as we look forward and congratulate you, what does this do for your career on a personal level?
On a personal level, what does it do for my career? I think it gives me something to, you know, to be proud of, you know, of my career, you know, because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go and blow my own horn, toot my own horn, you know. And so, you know, this is something I'm definitely proud of because, you know, it kind of, in a way, it validates, you know, the work that I did, you know, and part of being a professional athlete is, you know, is producing moments that people can be proud of, you know, or producing moments that people can enjoy. And, you know, to know that I was part of that, it makes me proud.
Well, we are sure proud of you. And I'll tell you what, Jacob, as far as you and I are concerned, when you get soccer royalty like this as your first inductee of about 8 radio inductions going on over the course of the next month or so, both Tuesdays and Thursdays, we've scheduled Hall of Fame inductions. And it's really special for Jacob and I to be a part of this special moment for all of our inductees. And we're so proud to make you the first for Sports Daily in this class. And this is really the honor for me, but I'm able to, at this time, tell LeBaron Holloman that you have been nominated, elected, and you are now officially inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame and is now a member in good standing, and you are granted all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. I want to tell you, congratulations, LeBaron Holloman, for being inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you so much. Like I said, this means a lot, you know, knowing that I'm in a crowd of excellent people, you know, and it feels great. It feels great, and I'm so honored.
How about a little shout out to those kids there at Marshall Middle School? That's where. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm at Hamilton. Oh,
I'm sorry, Hamilton.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, it is. Shout out to Hamilton Middle School. You know, they, you know, came in, and the district people, this is where they decided to place me, and I'm loving my time here.
Wonderful.
All right.
Yeah, just wonderful.
Very cool. LeBaron Holloman, latest inductee into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. We appreciate the time here on Sports Daily with us. We'll come back. Paul and I dive in. We're getting news with the rain on some rainouts and other things that we'll sift through and sort through. A night of the NBA playoffs to go through, and we'll continue to prepare you for the NBA draft. For the NFL draft in Kansas City. Also, by the way, we have another giveaway coming up later in the show. So stick around. Sports Daily going to roll forward right after this.
body. These stars will let you know it's over. Oh, please rest assured, this was not my fault.
Want to go see Coheed and Cambria at the Cotillion on Friday, May 12th, 7 o'clock, special guest Deaf Heaven. We've got your opportunity. We got a pair of tickets right now to our first caller, Coheed and Cambria, Cotillion, Friday, May 12th. Jad will take that winner. While he does, just so happens, we got a caller on the line, Earl, who wants to talk a little music. Earl, how are you this morning?
Oh, very well, Jacob. You know, when you were talking about where is some music, right? Now, this isn't new music, but at the Hutchinson Fox Theater tonight, Blues Traveler is doing an
Oh, my
tour.
God. Are you kidding me? I love Blues Traveler.
And I figured you would. It is definitely from your era, and that is one of the groups that actually built a bridge from your era to my era. So,
man, I love Blues Traveler.
So they're going to be at the Fox Theater, and you know what? You could bring Paul there. I can imagine Paul with a headband on, trying the hippie lettuce for the first time, just getting lost in harmonica notes. You know, Paul would be all into that.
It's far out, man.
Purple
far
Haze.
out.
He's
groovy,
in.
Paul. Hey, just letting you know, got to keep you up to date on that, man. And I know you're in the time of raising children, and you know, being past that time, finding good music out there in venues, very nice. And this one would be a good one. I mean,
it would be. It'll be. I would love to see you there. It's too late to the party for me on a concert for tonight. But man, Blues Traveler, I was all in.
There you go.
High school, late middle school, high school, and you know, Earl, I dabbled a little bit in the harmonica in college. I could actually get it to be good enough to hum along. You know, I could be I was a complimentary piece to my roommate, one of my best friends, who was a great musician.
I love the harmonica. I did the same thing. I learned to juggle in college and play the harmonica. The only two things I really learned in the Hankamer School of Business at Baylor.
Well, Paul, that's
too many buckshot beers.
And buckshot beers. That's it.
That's why your college experience didn't have any Dubois in it, because no one wants to see a juggler harmonica player.
Boy, you got that right.
A little bit high. So, all right, have a great day, guys.
You bet. Thanks, Earl.
Thanks, Earl. Although juggling and playing harmonica at the same time might be a thing for you, Paul. You might still be able to do that. Yeah, Blues Traveler. Man, I love Blues Traveler. I will say, one thing that in where I'm from, there's great music, but it's at like the local bars, right? Like, so you catch like acts before they get big, and it's like super intimate at the bar. I do miss that. And I know there's some of that here, but I will tell you, one thing about this region is there are venues that bring in just awesome acts of all different sizes and varieties.
Right.
I've seen some great shows at the Orpheum. I've seen some great shows at the Cotillion.
Yes, that's right.
At Hartman Arena.
Correct.
Right. And in Trust Bank Arena for some of the big ones. I do like that variety to get bigger acts on tour. And, you know, probably for me, my days of going to the bar to catch a band before anybody's ever heard of them are long gone anyway, Paul. But I will say the venue scene here for music, and now we've got, Wave Outdoor. I've seen a great show there. Like, there's all kinds of different types of venues that bring in some pretty cool acts. So Blues Traveler and Hutch.
That's pretty cool.
I love Blues Traveler.
And I know this is before you arrived in Wichita, but you know what Earl was talking about was some of the great bands. There are names that if I was to say them to you right now, that you will probably recognize, even though you probably never heard them play. But Rudy Love, does that name ring a bell? Have you heard the name Rudy Love?
Yeah, I believe that I have.
Well, he was he's exactly what Earl is talking about. Great musician, one of the great musicians from this area. But we've had a lot of them, and I just applaud. I gave Earl a round of applause because that was such a great call. It was such a great jogging of memory, of great memories.
Rudy Love, who passed a few years ago, and I know he's a legend. I think he had some recent music, and I don't know enough. I learned a little bit about him through work as he passed, and we, paid tribute a little bit at KWCH. But yeah, Rudy Love, I need to check out more of his music. I recall some of it as we were doing that story. Certainly somebody I think that means a lot to people that grew up here. All right, so a couple of notes here. Wichita State baseball, which of course was going to air here on KFH, has been rained out. So has Wichita State softball. That's a bummer because you had two big-time games coming in. For Shocker baseball, Paul, a weekend like they had against East Carolina, they were top 25 by one of the polls the NCAA recognizes.
Right.
So, they do have quite a few good midweek and, conference. They're going to have a chance to move up there. Softball, as far as increasing its standing in the RPI, this was kind of the shot, right? Now they just have the pressure on to win every game or close to it the rest of the way on their way to the NCAA tournament to see if they can host a regional potentially. So I feel like it was probably more of a missed opportunity for softball than it was for baseball, but both had a chance to play some really high-level games. So both rained out, but I'll tell you, we need the rain so badly that you won't hear a complaint out of me because I'm just glad we're finally getting some of that rain.
Right.
Paul,
well,
the NBA playoffs last night.
Right.
We talked a little bit about it, and LeBron elevating and Austin Reeves, the leading scorer for the Lakers, was certainly cool to see, a guy who played a little basketball at Wichita State. But man, the Miami Heat are leading the Bucks 3-1. 3-1, and this was the series nobody. If you listen to the talk, and I did, it was that there's no chance Milwaukee loses this series. All of a sudden, Jimmy Butler goes for 56, and they knock off a healthy Bucks team, and now they lead this thing 3-1, Paul. Are the Heat going to win this series, or are they just teasing us here?
Well, they're going to win the series. I mean, to come back from 3-1, I don't care if you're the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis is healthy and everybody's healthy and everybody's playing well. That is a lot. That is a big mountain to climb. So to answer your question, in my opinion, no, they don't win. The Milwaukee Bucks do not come back. The Miami Heat are playing almost inspired. I watched a good chunk of that game last night, and what kept me on the game was obviously Jimmy Butler. I mean, this guy was amazing. 19 of 28 from the field, 15 of 18 from the free throw line, 56 points. And he defended and he did everything he needed to do. He went into the paint, was not afraid of Giannis, made some great shots up and over Giannis of all people. It was really amazing to see. And even though it was a 5-point game, really, Jacob, it didn't feel like a 5-point game. It did not feel that close to me, but it was a lot of fun. And rarely does an NBA game, even in the playoffs, catch me to watch it as long as I did last night. But that was so much fun. It was really a treat to watch. And you watched something really great with Jimmy Butler and the job that he did last night. 56 points. I mean, there's only 3-4 guys in the history of the NBA that have ever had more points than that in a playoff game. Just amazing. It was so much fun to watch. But this is one of those series which is interesting. But this series is probably done. This series is probably over. 3-1. You just don't come back from those kind of things. You've got to win. You've got to do better. The game that really intrigues me will be, of course, the Clipper and Phoenix. That'll probably be over tonight, I'm thinking. But the other two games, Boston and Atlanta, I'm yawning. Minnesota and Denver, I'm yawning. Tonight will be a very boring evening when it comes to NBA playoffs. But last night, how exciting that was for the Heat. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, you've got Clippers Suns tonight. I'm excited about Clippers Suns.
I mean,
I don't know if the Clippers have been a little snake bitten in this series, but I hope they can make a series out of it.
Well,
Heat Bucks tomorrow. The Bucks are an early 11-point favorite in that game, which is interesting. The other one, Paul, last night was overtime. LeBron and the Lakers take down Memphis, a highly competitive game. Austin Reeves led the way in a very balanced Laker attack. LeBron was great late. they're up 3-1 as a 7 seed. And they're winning games, Paul, here, which is interesting when Anthony Davis is, not a major factor. He had 12 and 11 last night, but he was 4 of 13 from the field. I wonder at 38 with LeBron there. He went for 22 and 20 last night, 7 assists. As a 7 seed, what kind of chance do you give the Lakers to win an NBA title at this point, knowing that Anthony Davis, probably just isn't going to give them much?
Well, that's the question, is Anthony Davis. I mean, if you can get some meaningful minutes on the court for Anthony Davis, your odds of winning a championship go up. There's no question in my mind about that. But we don't know. We basically look at Anthony Davis, and I think we're at that point now where we look at him from game to game. Will he and even when he plays, he may not get that many, meaningful minutes to make a difference. But LeBron was a difference last night. LeBron has taken this poking of the bear thing serious by Dylan Brooks. And I don't blame him. And of course, Dylan Brooks did not play last night, serving that 1-game suspension for the poking of the bear, if you know what I mean. And that was meaningful. But here's the thing about LeBron. I was impressed with his performance last night, but it was the 20 rebounds that amazed me.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was...
because that makes up for Anthony Davis to some degree,
It
right?
does. It helps. And not only that, but he was relentless with attacking the basket in the paint. A lot of those 20 points, even though it doesn't seem like a lot of points when you're talking about LeBron James, those 20 points were special points because it opened up things around the perimeter because he attacked the paint. When you attack the paint, you got to collapse. That opens up the perimeter. There's a lot of good things happen to a basketball offense when you can attack the paint. And he was really good at that last night, and defending and blocking. He had several key blocks in a game this close. You're talking about a 6-point game in overtime. He had a lot of blocks, and it was really a special night. He was really something special. And just when I feel like I want to criticize LeBron James, I can't. I've got to sing his praises. Last night, even though he only scored 20 points, he may have had the biggest contribution to a playoff win that he's ever had, based upon 20 rebounds and what he did defensively. He was a master on the court. And that's part of the reason why you call him, King LeBron. That goes with the territory. Wonderful game to watch. And here again, Lakers 7 seed will take down a number 1 seed.
Number 2 seed, Memphis.
Number
yes.
2. I'm sorry, number 2 seed.
I wonder too. Yeah, LeBron's awesome, man. Like he's incredible, and I love when guys are able to stretch it late in their careers like this, just because it's so hard to do and you don't see it that often. And LeBron has polarized for whatever reason for people, but man, as a player, he is just so dang good and fun to watch. And it does, like, no matter whether you're and most of the time people's, LeBron hate comes from the fact that they think Jordan's the greatest and don't want LeBron to be considered that way. But he's great, right? Whether he's number 1 or 2 or maybe 3, he's there for just about everybody. And, he can still have performances like that. And can it lead to an NBA title?
Right.
That intrigue makes the postseason a whole lot better, Paul. And it's cool to see Austin Reeves be such a big part of that too.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's an ex-Wichita State kid. And it's fun to see him have the success that he had. Listen, Austin Reeves last night scored 23 points in this win. Actually, he was the leading scorer for the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's a lot of fun to see a kid like that have the success that he's having when he has Wichita State attached to his name. That's really cool. Kid out of Arkansas, recruited out of Arkansas, and to see him have success at the NBA at this level in the playoffs, playing with guys like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that's really fun. And he did a great job. He's had a really good series. And of course, Ja Morant, I love Ja. I do. I love the guy. I think he's as talented a player as in the entire NBA. Did not have a good game. Was really not a factor in this game. Now, we understand his wrist. His left wrist is bothering him. We get that. We understand that. It's a tough thing. But 8 of 24 from the field is not going to get it done. 1 of 6 from 3 won't get it done. Not when you're this far into the first round of the playoffs. That doesn't do the job.
Yeah, we'll see how much of it. But Memphis is still good. Like, I'm not going to count Memphis out of the series.
They are
down 3-1. They'll have a chance here, but it is interesting overtime game. 2 good games yesterday. That was, collectively as good as we've seen. I'm with you. I don't expect that sort of environment tonight. You've got heavy favorites in all 3 of the games, but we'll see. The NBA playoffs are in full swing right now, and they've given us a little bit to talk about, certainly, and they're just going to get better as these rounds go on. Let's take an early break here because I want to give us enough time to reset and go into a draft segment as we get closer and closer. The Rodgers move, does it do anything else for any other quarterbacks who've been on the rumor mill for trades? Lamar Jackson, Trey Lance. I'm curious about that as we make our way to Thursday's first round. It's Albracht and Savage at Sports Daily. It's a Tuesday, and we'll be right back. right, welcome back, everybody. If you missed it, Wichita State softball and baseball both postponed, actually both canceled today. They will not be made up. Two big games for both programs. We've got the rain here. Joe commenting on our video stream saying they needed those games to improve their standings. They did. I think softball needed it more than baseball, probably. Baseball's played Oklahoma State several times this year. They got to win over them. Baseball's got enough games left that if they just continue to win games, they're going to be able to increase their standing quite a bit. Softball, a little bit different, just because they're running out of time and they are expected to win all these games. None of them have been moving the needle on RPI. So they're just going to have to hope the resume is good enough. And I think it probably is to have a chance to host a regional, I think. So we just need them to not stumble at all down the stretch. But both teams will get back into conference play over the weekend. Paul, NFL news, of course, the big one, Aaron Rodgers traded. The Jets get their player. The Packers get a bigger return. That when this all started, I never would have thought they would have got a return this big. It's interesting as we look at the draft because some other guys are in the trade rumor mill. When you talk about Trey Lance, when you talk about potentially Lamar Jackson, I'd say I think that those quarterback trades are done before draft day, but maybe we could get something done here. Do you think Trey Lance, especially because we know Lamar Jackson could help a team right now, right? Lamar Jackson could go make a team better. There's no doubt about it. But what do we think about Trey Lance, who was going to get a chance and then got hurt again? We haven't really seen much. I think that the 49ers probably like Brock Purdy enough to be willing to move on. Trey Lance and Zach Wilson are in a different boat. We've seen Zach Wilson. I think we can pretty much say Zach Wilson ain't going to cut it in the NFL.
I think that's
I don't know that we've seen enough out of Lance to say that, but because we haven't seen enough, where are you at with Trey Lance?
But aren't you a little hesitant when you talk about Trey Lance because he is hurt and he's hurt often enough to make you think, well, is he one of those? I mean,
sure.
Jimmy Garoppolo's in the same situation. When I think of Jimmy Garoppolo, I think of what a talented football player who can't stay on the field. That's my first initial thought. Do I have criticism of his game? No, I think he could be, and at times has shown to be an outstanding quarterback. The problem is, can you play long periods of time? Can you play a whole season? That's a good question. And with Trey Lance, at this point, I'm not convinced that he's one of those guys that will be durable enough to have an impression, a huge impression, or a long-term impression. Let me rephrase that to that. I think that might be more accurate for our conversation. I don't think he can contribute for a long enough period. That's kind of where I'm at with Trey Lance. Same with Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't know. I would not really be totally interested in a Trey Lance at this point if I was the GM of another NFL team.
I don't know what kind of team would be the right fit for Trey Lance. It's interesting, and I don't, because the Niners gave up a ton to get him. So, what would they be willing to trade him for? And let's take a team like the Texans, who have a lot of draft capital. Now, the Texans aren't going to give up a second overall pick for Trey Lance, but they got a lot of picks in this draft. And, it sort of makes me wonder, would that be the kind of team, where they've got 2 first-round picks, and I think they've got their second, and they've got 2 thirds, right? So a team with that kind of draft capital, if you don't love these quarterbacks, would you be willing to trade a third for Trey Lance and, give him a shot while you just continue to bolster your roster? But the problem with Lance to some degree, and I think what would hurt his trade value if I was an NFL executive, we know the value of a young quarterback, Paul. They're as valuable, if not the most valuable thing you can have in football, is a good young quarterback before they sign their big deal. Now we're getting to the point where if Trey Lance excels for a year or two, he's all of a sudden he's going to be an expensive quarterback. So even if Trey Lance does turn out, obviously you'd be willing to take a risk on any talent. The contract wouldn't hinder you from that, but it is a little less attractive to me if you don't get him for those extra 2 years of while they're good and young and inexpensive, right? So if if you trade for him and he ends up being a pretty good quarterback, then you got to pay him pretty quick because he has, he's already been in the league for a little while. So I don't know. I don't think I would do it. I think I would probably, if I thought I needed a quarterback and there was an unproven guy that you wanted to take a swing on, I'd probably be more inclined to take the rookie just because of the length of time you could get them on an inexpensive deal would be longer. But I'll be curious to see Trey Lance. And if he was traded, what kind of value does he even still have? I don't know the answer to that question. The other one's Lamar Jackson, though, Paul, and I think he obviously does have a lot of value, right? He could make a lot of teams a whole lot better real quick, but he obviously comes with the price tag, which is the problem for the Ravens in the first place. Where do you think Lamar? We haven't talked about Lamar with you here on this show, Paul. Where do you think he plays football next, and when does it happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's you're going. If we know, we're going to know by Thursday. I think obviously we've got to know, but I don't know. And speaking of Trey Lance, by the way, here's a little heads up for you. He has some success. He's going to be expensive. I mean, no matter what, it doesn't matter where he goes. It doesn't matter when he goes. It really makes no difference. He has those 2 or 3 years you're talking about. He gets expensive, and it doesn't matter who he's with. He gets expensive. But what would you give up? I think I'd be willing to give up a second or a third, or a combination of down the row draft picks for a Trey Lance. I'm not sure. When I was pointing out the fact that he is hurt and hurt more than we want to see, or hurt worse than we want to see, my feeling is he still needs to have a chance. We don't know. It's still early enough in his career to find out what his threshold is for his ability to play. So I want to see that. Yes, I would still trade for him as long as it's not too much. It's going to cost some. There's going to be a little pain for whatever franchise rolls the dice on Trey Lance. I get it. But I think I might be willing to do it. I think I'm that guy that might say, I will take a chance. It's hard to find quarterbacks. I'm willing to take a chance. And with Lamar Jackson, he's going to it's a money deal right now. It's going to cost somebody a lot of money to take him. But I think that is just the way it's going to be. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts, what he's getting now. That's kind of the way the world is set right now. Lamar Jackson won't match that, but Lamar Jackson will get in the neighborhood. And that's a lot of money, isn't it, my friend?
Well, he'll match it. He just is what's guaranteed. I mean, that's been the elephant in the room forever.
Right. Well, Hurts had 161 million guaranteed. 161 guaranteed. These aren't the days of
but not fully guaranteed.
No,
but not fully guaranteed.
161 that's a pretty good guarantee. 161's good.
It's the elephant in the room. There's reports that the Ravens have offered Jackson 175 guaranteed.
Well,
I don't know. Look, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even have a good guess at what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to play for the Ravens if I had to make a call. And I suppose if I think he's going to play for the Ravens, I would think it happens now, this year. I just don't know.
Right.
And as we get closer and closer to the draft and nothing happens, man, I don't know. I would love to see. I just want to see Lamar play. All the stuff to the side. I want to see him continue his career. I'm fascinated if he gets traded to another team to see his level of success, because the Ravens have done such a great job of highlighting his skill set. And he is, he's still young, right? And if he went somewhere else, it would be such an interesting watch to me.
Right.
But I just don't know what does it take to trade for him? How much do you have to pay? The price tag is such a weird thing with him. But man, he's good and has been good and has always been good. I think the Ravens still make the most sense.
Right.
I just don't know how far that bridge has been burned, or if it's been burned, and this is all just negotiation. I just don't know.
I think your analysis is on target, and let me tell you why. Partly because we don't hear a lot in the rumor mill. Oh, you hear the occasional this team or that team, but you don't hear anything that sounds solid. You and I know what solid sounds like. We've seen it enough times. We know what solid looks like and sounds like, and we're not hearing anything like that. That's why I think your analysis of returning to the Ravens is probably right on target. I think you're probably right there. You're right there. I think you're exactly right. And you and I know what interested teams look like, and we're not seeing much of that. So I think your analysis is right on target. It's not going to be anybody that we're looking at because we're not hearing enough about it. And we would be hearing about that would be news. Who's going to sign Lamar Jackson? That's news. That's big news. What we'll talk about, it's what ESPN will talk about, it's what the NFL Network will talk about, it's what everybody will talk about. But we're not hearing a lot. When was the last time you had a Lamar Jackson story? It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, you're other than people in mocks guessing that he might get traded.
Just guess. Those are guesses.
They are, and I'm fine with guesses, by the way, because that's all any of us have right
that's
now.
right.
Like this
that's all we have.
There's not really a lot of solid ground for this. It's been so interesting to watch, and we're now, just a little bit more than 48 hours away from the draft happening. And as it happens, and teams have to make decisions at that position, that's sort of the timer on this. Look, if he doesn't get traded before, probably the end of the first round by Thursday night, I don't know how you see him playing for anybody but the Ravens, because everybody will have moved on to whatever their plan is, right?
Right. No, it will be the Ravens. That's right.
The chance to make him a part of your future happens in the next 48 hours. And so we'll see. One of the many, many storylines to watch as we get ready for Thursday's NFL draft right up the road in Kansas City is, if you've seen the images that have come out so far of Union Station, man, it looks great.
It does.
It's going to be
looks
awesome.
like a different city, doesn't it?
I cannot wait for it. It will be so much fun to watch. All right, we'll come back. Paul and I will get you set up for the network today. Some shifting as we've got Wichita State baseball and softball canceled due to weather. We'll come back. We'll set you up for the day here on Sports Daily.
The NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of KFH. The promo code is my name, Ted, T-E-D, Ted. Visit FanDuel.com/Ted right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, the app is safe and secure, and you get paid instantly. Just go to FanDuel.com/Ted and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets.
No.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Jim Rome at 11, Bob and Jeff at 2, Maggie and Perloff at 4, Zach Gelb at 5. The Royals in Arizona, 8:30. Again, no Wichita State baseball today, which you would always hear right here on KFH. Also, no Wichita State softball. We do have Wichita State Athletic Director Kevin Saul on the program tomorrow, Paul. Looking forward to that. Let's do it again tomorrow. What do you say?
Let's do it, my friend. It'd be fun.
For Paul Savage and Jad Chambers, I'm Jacob Albracht. We'll be back more Sports Daily tomorrow.